Welcome back to TCS viewers. It's Chris Nichols here from the camera store. Now we're looking at the Canon G1X Mark II today. Now when the first Canon G1X came out, we weren't too thrilled about it. It was bulky, it was very slow focusing, and not a great handling camera, although it did deliver excellent image quality with its large sensor. We're now going to take a walk in the park with the G1X Mark II and see if this new version can win us over. Now, one thing the original G1X had going for it was a fairly large sensor. 1.5 inches in size, basically like a micro four thirds sensor. It delivered excellent image quality. Now, on the Mark II, we're actually dropping from 14 megapixels to 13. It's interesting, but we're expecting better high ISO performance. We're going to take a look at that in just a bit. Now, one of the other things that was interesting is the lens. The original lens was a little bit slow, 2.8 to 5.8 as an aperture. The Mark II has now a 24 to 120 range going from f2 to 3.9. That's a nice jump and a nice increase. Now, if we compare this camera to something like its closest competitor, the Sony RX100 Mark II, for example, we're getting twice the physical sensor size, a lens which has a little bit more zoom range, is essentially as wide open at the wide range, and actually faster at the telephoto range. So this camera should deliver very, very good results compared to a camera like that. Alright, so now's a good time to compare high ISO performance. So rather than shoot it out here in the bright sun, we're going to use our low light test facility, aka the bathroom at the store. But it works, and you can see here the G1X is doing a pretty good job overall. However, this is one of the issues I have with this camera. First off, it's not the sharpest camera on the planet. The other thing too, it's 13 megapixels, which compared to the competition in the price range is not very much at all. You've got cameras that are going to push 24 or 20 megapixels, and they're going to do a similar or better job in high ISO performance. I mean, here, check this out. This is against the RX100, which is a sensor twice as small physically, and yet I'd say on par or even slightly better at high ISO. Here's something pretty cool. This new lens is nice. I like the extra range, I like the faster aperture, and it also gets us a lot closer focusing. We can get within 5 centimeters here to do great macro, and really, considering the larger size of sensor, that's pretty incredible. So overall, nice quick focusing, does a good job in macro for sure. Now, the original G1X actually had a really bulky brick-like body. It was quite an unattractive camera, handled sluggishly. I really do like the Mark II. The body design is far more simple, it's much smaller and cleaner. I really love the new manual focus dial, the aperture shutter control ring dial. Those are nice features. The grip is small and comfortable. However, if you've got bigger hands, your thumb's going to be all over this touchscreen. You know, there's nowhere to really put a large hand, and you're going to be turning things, setting things. It'll be annoying. Also, this Wi-Fi button on the back, it's too easy to push with your thumb if you're holding the camera with the grip. I just did it right now, and it puts my camera into Wi-Fi. That's an annoying distraction. And this back dial, Canon's not the only one guilty of this, but I hate it. It's hard to turn, and I'm going to be relying on this to change ISO quite a bit. Still, overall, a nice improvement. Why am I not fishing right now, Jordan? I guess because we're doing a camera review. Well, anyways, checking out this here, the new sensor. I've taken a shot of this family up on the hill. We're going to zoom in here right now, and you can see, yeah, it's not super sharp. This is at f8. The lens should be pretty good. Not bad detail, but still, something like a Sony a6000 or other mirrorless cameras will probably give you more detail. So here's a couple things I don't like about the camera. First off, even though we've got such a large body here, it's a very small battery. And that's unfortunate because we've got tons of space. Only gives us about 240 shots on a full charge. Now you compare that against the competition, they're going to usually be pushing 300 to 400 shots. Another thing, this back dial, I've already talked about how I don't like it, but here's another thing. If I push exposure comp, for example, naturally then I'd want to turn this dial. It's right there at my fingertips, but it does nothing. I have to push exposure comp and then use the control dial in the front. Now that's silly because I have to then turn that off before I go back to using it as aperture. I really don't like that. It'd be more ergonomic for me to just be able to turn this dial, my finger's already there. You know what rotating screens are good for? Selfies. Here we go, I'm gonna get Jordan and I on the river. You know, I will say this too, this screen, even in bright sunlight, is not bad. It actually has pretty good contrast. And if you want, through this multifunction hot shoe, we can even get an optional EVF. So a lot of cameras like the RX100 Mark II, they're doing that as well. By the way, again, I hit that Wi-Fi button just like that. It's annoying. Hit the menu, exit. Thank you. Now the G1X was a slow dog of a camera, just could not keep up. So I'm going to try the continuous fast shooting here and also see if the autofocus can keep up. Now in a camera like this with a moderate size sensor, depth of field's not going to be expansive, but it's not going to be, you know, shallow either. So I'm stopped down to 5.6. That should help me keep things in focus. I'm going to see if this camera can keep up. All right, so we've tried the continuous autofocus. I mean, again, we're getting a fair amount of depth of field here, but frame per second with the servo autofocus on the whole time feels more like 3 frames per second, 2.5. It's not terribly quick, but you know, if you're okay with a fixed targeting point, the camera did a pretty good job. And overall focusing today has been acceptable. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. But here's one of my favorite things about this camera. Probably my favorite thing. First, you take 120mm focal length on the telephoto, you couple that with a 3.9 aperture, which is pretty quick, you give it remarkable close focusing capability, and this camera can actually kill a background like nobody's business. It's very SLR-like. Check that out. Big positive.
All right, let's talk video quality on the G1X. You can see the screen here is letting me selfie shoot it. Now the audio on it is pretty awful and there's no mic input, so I'm going to have to use separate sound sync for it. You can hear the actual audio from the camera here. Yeah, it's not very good, so we're going to stick to the external. Now the quality on it's pretty good. It's using the same processing as all Canon's DSLRs. It's a little bit soft, but it kind of drives me crazy. What Canon does is they take all the manual controls off everything except the DSLRs, and it really forces you, if you want any kind of creative control in video, to buy one of those cameras. Even though actually this is better suited to video recording. It's got the great flip screen, the autofocus works well for video. It just seems like they cripple these devices for no reason to make you get into a DSLR system. I don't know, it kind of drives me crazy. The quality's good on this, but without any manual control, I don't know if I'd ever use it for any serious shooting.
Now when it comes to Wi-Fi on this camera, it actually does a really nice job. I download the app for free, get this all set up, just Wi-Fi. It connected very quickly. I can see my photos, and I do get remote control shooting. I can change zoom range, I can fire the camera, and I can make some adjustments, turn on self-timer. Pretty basic stuff, but it worked well. There was no problems. We don't seem to be having any disconnects, so G1X Wi-Fi works very nicely. So using the G1X Mark II, here's what I think. It's not a perfect camera by any stretch, you know, and although it's vastly improved over the original G1X, that's not saying much because I really didn't like the original G1X. My big problem with the camera is this. We're spending a lot of money, and this gets us into a price point where you get a lot of mirrorless competition. The Alpha A6000, for example, is cheaper than this camera, and you're getting interchangeable lenses, better image quality, faster autofocusing. I mean, why get this thing? On top of that, you take something like an RX100 Mark II, that camera's got a smaller sensor, but image quality is basically comparable, and it's a much smaller package. I just feel like Canon is floating this camera in between, and it really doesn't have a home. It doesn't find a niche. That's my thought on it. I'd say go mirrorless or go smaller and get the same kind of quality. All right, until next time, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
With the RX100 too, Sony is still proven to be one of the most popular brands when it comes to larger sensored compact cameras with a built-in zoom lens. But Canon wants a slice of that action, which is why they've released this, the G1X Mark II. Canon's PowerShot G series has always been popular, and they're hoping to stay trendy with this latest iteration. Well, the important thing about compact cameras is that they're compact. That is not small. It is smaller than its predecessor, but it's no engineering feat. It's not a great deal smaller than the full-frame Sony A7, heavier too, and the Canon has an 18.7 by 14mm size sensor, similar size to the Micro Four Thirds sensors but bigger than the sensor of the Sony RX100. Is it pocketable? Oh, I have to do this action to get it in. Oh. Yes, it is pocketable. You like my camera, sir? Oh, shoelace. Oh, give me your hand. Oh. Oh, it's digging into my hip. Oh. So yes, it's pocketable. Do some KY here. So that's what it's like to have a wide girth lens. It's almost like Canon fed this some Viagra. Several pills. Look at that. This has plenty more power within. Watch this. Oh! Oh! Oh, it's cold. Hot. It's cold. Alright, okay, that's serious. So it's not really a trendy camera. Well, it's not meant to be a trendy camera. I mean, it's not going to fit in your pocket. It's going to ruin all the lines of your trousers, your hip-hoppy trousers. But this is not meant to be a trendy camera. It's not for fashionistas. This is a camera for photo geeks. Where the fuck is the play button on this? Oh, it's on the top. Okay, all right. Because that's where everybody else puts their play buttons. Anyway, the G series of cameras is aimed at the enthusiasts who want a smaller camera but with the features of a bigger camera, which is why they've still made it a big camera. I'm going to take photos of the cool, trendy people in Causeway Bay. This is street photography of street fashion on the street and around the street, in, on and around the street. The sensor size is actually the same as the G1X, which is about micro four-thirds size, but the difference with this is that it's got innovative new technology. Well, it's not that innovative, but basically the imaging circle is larger than the imaging sensor size. So when you have the 3.2 or 4.3 aspect ratio, it doesn't affect the angle of view. Yeah, because that's one of the features I really wanted. I like a hat. Dark green there. Oh, what? No, I pressed the Wi-Fi button. Searching for Wi-Fi access points. No, I don't want that, no! I want to take a photo. No, and he's gone, he was right in front of me. Oh, damn it. Because the Wi-Fi button, let me just, oh, what was I making fuss about? Thumb grip, Wi-Fi button. Very easy to press. Search for access points. No, I don't want to. Oi. So look, the amazing thing with this now is that it focuses a lot closer. Oh, look at that. 5 centimeters close. And because it's for photo geeks, it's got rings. Because photo geeks like rings. You've got this clicky one here. And you've got this one which you can use for manual focusing. But the zoom lens is controlled by this.
For sure it won't win over any hipsters with the design. Its functional looks are quirky to say the least. The barrel of the lens looks like BMX stunt pegs mismatched with the camera body.
And you've got dial on the back. Look at that, you can have a crap load of stuff on display. The levelometer, I don't think that's the actual word, but it's the levely thing, the histogrammy thing, and the griddy thing.
This camera is for people who like to fiddle. There are numerous features to please photography enthusiasts. A number of accessories for this camera too, including a custom grip that appears to come as the standard grip in Europe.
This has Wi-Fi, as I found out earlier, and I keep finding it out, just like right now. Stop it. And it's got a sticker there to prove it. Wi-Fi and Nespresso. Bang. Cappuccino, please. screen is of a tilty variety. Doesn't flip that way though. That kind of finishing is enough to make the Germans go jealous. Look at that. Hardly a gap at all. And the amazing thing is that it's got Super Mario included. Collecting all those coins.
Sound more like Flappy Bird to me.
I don't know, I haven't got past the first pipe on Flappy Birds. Well, the key thing is that this is smaller than a G1X. Partly because they've done away with that really stupid optical viewfinder which they had. So, which is crap. She's actually the Digital Rev Queen, Digital Rev TV Queen. She's married to the bloody producer. I was going to say it's got a 5 FPS burst rate. I'm just finding... Of course, it's all part of the video where I don't do any research on how to find the burst mode on this bloody camera. It should be that button, right? Switch it off. Oh, it works! It works! Yay! 5 FPS burst. I don't care about it now. Oh, yeah, way. Oh. The speed at which it zooms, you know, it's quick enough. Not too much of a delay. It's quite hard to do incredibly subtle, non-Wayne's World-esque zooming techniques. Everything's like Korean pop music video.
The lack of coolness aside, it proves to be pleasing when shooting with it on the streets.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad match.
Hi.
Yo, hello. I'd say in terms of autofocus speed, this is pretty damn good.
It's mostly on target with the focusing, which is nice. I don't think people should think of the bigger aperture at the longer end as giving extra ability in terms of shallow depth of field. Bokeh action only happens when you're really close to your subject. And okay, the bokeh is not bad. IS simply works, that's all you need to know. 50th of a second shot while walking. Looks pretty good to me. The optics and sensor combine together to provide some nice image quality throughout the range. It shows a distinct lack of noise up to ISO 6400, albeit at the expense of some smudging. ISO 12800 could still be usable too.
When you're filming, the zoom is actually a lot smoother. Nice feature.
But the Canon doesn't excel when it comes to the video mode. Aliasing and moire everywhere, big time. Really awful compression. You don't need to really study the footage, it's just there, in spades and bucketfuls. No mic input either. None of it surprising, plenty disappointing. It's not a camera for hipsters. It's not got that cool factor like some other compact cameras out there. But that's not the problem. The problem is that the price is not cool. $800, or even worse in the UK, £800. That kind of budget opens up a lot of options. For the money, there are cameras that are better looking, have decent video quality, more desirable, but if all you want is a machine that is good at taking still images, then this is certainly worth considering.
Hi, I'm Lexi Savvides for CNET. This is a first look preview at the Canon G1X Mark II. Now, Canon has had one previous attempt at the large sensor G series advanced compact camera. It's a bit of a mouthful, but this one is the Mark II and it follows up on the previous G1X that came out a couple of years ago. The body design is totally different. Unlike the large, very tall G series G1X that came before, this one is much more shaped like a traditional compact camera. Obviously, it's a little bit bigger. As you can see, it fits in my hand, but it's still quite hefty and definitely nice and pleasing to hold. Now, depending on what market you're in around the world, you'll either get the option of an included external grip to make this configuration a little bit chunkier and easier to hold, or you're just going to have the standard grip configuration like so. Around the lens are two rings. The one at the front is just a standard manual focus ring and it moves smoothly and freely. You can also use expanded focus on the back of the screen to see more precisely what you're focusing on. The one at the back, however, is much more interesting. This is a full-on aperture ring. It moves in 1/3 stops, so it clicks really nicely between each of your stops. And it can also double when you're in manual exposure mode as your shutter exposure ring. So you just need to press the exposure compensation button on the back of the G1X Mark II, and then it flicks between either parameter if you're in manual exposure mode. At the back is a giant LCD screen. It also now totally flips up 180 degrees. Now, even though the market for the G1X Mark II, I'm pretty sure is not the selfie crowd, it's still pretty useful to have nonetheless, and it can also tilt back and pivot on a hinge like so, which is really useful for some covert street photography if that's your particular style. It's nice and bright, high resolution, 1.04 million dots. It's also a touch screen so you can get up close and personal with your images. There's a pop-up flash included too. At the top on the mode dial is a bunch of custom modes. There's also a dedicated movie mode, full PASM exposure control, full automatic modes, scene modes. I could go on, but you can find out more about those particular modes over on CNET. Also, the new thing about the G1X Mark II is NFC and Wi-Fi connectivity. So if you want to pair it with an Android phone really quickly, it's very simple, although you can go to the straight Wi-Fi manual setup if you're on another operating system. One nice thing about the G1X is if you're shooting, say for example in RAW and JPEG mode, and you want to delete a particular shot you've just taken, the menu will actually give you the option to delete just the JPEG, just the RAW, or both the RAW and JPEG, which is a really nice touch. When it comes to video recording, it's pretty standard on the G1X Mark II. It's 1080, 30p. There is no external microphone input, unfortunately, so you have to make do with the onboard mic. And there is no optical viewfinder. Now, this was a big selling point of the G1X. Now, as you move to the G1X Mark II, it's an electronic viewfinder, which is a separate extra purchase. However, I'm pretty sure if you're the target market for this camera, you're definitely going to want to buy that extra electronic viewfinder. This has been a hands-on first look at the Canon G1X Mark II. Make sure to stay tuned to CNET for the full review pretty shortly. I'm Lexi Savides.
I'm Ziv Cohen, a photojournalist. I take pictures and tell stories. And this is my story with the Canon G1X Mark II. I don't pose people, you know, I work in a very natural way. So I have two control rings on my lens, which I can easily adjust to the way I like shooting. I've been wandering the streets of Tel Aviv for the last 25 years, so I know a lot of people, and I shoot everywhere, and I'm always with a camera. And I try, in a way, I think, to make people feel about the subject. I think this is where I'm aiming in my photography. If there's one thing I won't compromise on, is quality. And this camera allows me to photograph because of its large sensor, as if I'm shooting with a DSLR. So I like having something in my foreground to get this depth in my frame. The f2 lens allowed me to photograph in low light conditions, but also when I want to shoot with shallow depth of field, as if I'm shooting with my DSLRs.
I mean, I did not expect such high quality from such a small camera.
Hey, it's Zach from Engadget, and we're here at CP Plus 2014 in Yokohama, Japan, taking a look at Canon's new PowerShot G1X Mark II. And so, a really nice camera, a little bit more substantial than you'd get with a typical point and shoot. And the reason for that is that it has a very large 1.5-inch sensor behind this fixed lens. And so the lens is quite large as well. It's a 5x optical zoom lens, but it has a large aperture of f2 to f3.9, so you should be able to shoot in low light quite well. It does have a pop-up flash, and it pops up and over, so it doesn't just pop up straight, and the reason for that is that it can extend over the lens, so even when you're zoomed all the way out, you should be able to shoot with the flash without any issue. We have a really nice LCD that pops up and over for self-portraits. Hi, Matt. And then it can pop down as well, so if you want to shoot overhead shots, and you can position it like this to shoot from the waist. Really nice lens, very quick zoom. It is a power zoom, so you do have to kind of wait a moment or so for the camera to zoom. There's no manual zoom with the Ring, but it really does perform quite well. Focus is also really nice, really great focusing. So this has been a quick look at Canon's PowerShot G1X Mark II at CP Plus 2014.
Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. So I wanted to discuss the new Canon PowerShot G1X Mark II that's out. That's replacing the G1X. So now we have the Mark II. Not a lot of differences between these cameras, and I wasn't particularly overwhelmed with the first one. So I'm going to go over what are the main 5 differences, what they've changed with the Mark II, and then I'm going to invite you guys in the comments below if you think these differences are enough to make you consider this. Is this an irrelevant camera to you? What do you feel about the Mark II? So let's discuss the 5 differences. The 5 biggies are, number 1, it's got twin control dials now on the lens. So you got one control dial, which is going to give you smooth control over features such as manual focus. And then you got a second control dial, which features click stops. So it's kind of has that notched feel as you're turning it. And that's for settings such as aperture or things like that. So that's an advantage, I think, over the original G1X. Number 2, we've got, I don't know if this is an advantage, they're kind of trying to spin it that way, but they've totally removed the viewfinder. So basically what they're saying is with the changes they've made to the body, the size and whatnot, that there's no longer room for the viewfinder. So basically you're going to spend $7.99 on a compact camera that now has no viewfinder, which I think might be a point of contention for some people, although you could look at it as the viewfinder, the little tunnel type viewfinder that was on the original G1X most people didn't think much of it anyways, so perhaps it's not a big deal that it's gone. There is going to be an optional electronic unit available. I think it's around $300, which for an already fairly pricey compact camera, now you got to spend another $300 to get an electronic viewfinder. So we'll see how this goes, how this works for Canon with their marketing idea on this. I kind of think it's a bit of a problem there. But let's continue on. So that was number 2. Number 3, we have a new lens, f2.0 to 3.9. So a significantly faster lens, about 1 stop faster throughout the range, which is welcome. And this lens has a good range. It's about equivalent to a 24 to 120 millimeter. So definitely an improvement there in the lens, and a welcome one. We always appreciate, especially in a compact camera, having a faster lens with better, faster aperture on it, as opposed to a slower lens throughout the zoom range. Number 4 is subjective and perhaps to be seen, but they're saying that it has the focusing speed has been improved on the Mark II versus the original G1X. So should focus better, and I think that was a significant complaint with a lot of people on the original G1X. So let's see if that indeed is the case, because it certainly was something that needed to be addressed, and hopefully it has. Number 5 is a new sensor. They're claiming a new sensor, but it's basically the same size, within, a tad of a millimeter. So is it really a new sensor, or just slightly changed? That remains to be seen. They are saying it's a new one. We'll have to see how it performs. Does it give us significant advantages over the original or not? But those are the 5 features that are different, are supposed to be improvements over the original G1X. So what do you think? With these enhancements, these updates to the G1X Mark II, would they make you consider the G1X? Is this a camera you might be interested in? Is the G1X Mark II still not a camera that interests you at all, as did the original not interest you, as myself? Because it's just too much money for what it offers. I can get so much more out of a Micro Four Thirds system, or I'm happier with the DSLR system at that price. That's my feelings. Do you agree? What do you think? Let's have a discussion. Leave your comments below. What do you think about the new features? And is the camera of any interest to you? Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back with some new videos, some new articles. Keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of photography, videography, and technology right here at artoftheimage.com. Thanks a lot, folks.